Hey everybody, welcome to Moment of Clarity. Thanks for joining me. I thought we'd go through a bit of Joe Biden's inauguration speech and tear it apart because you can't give these motherfuckers a second, all right? They don't get a second to relax. If they're going to spout bullshit, then we need to be on top of it. We got to get started early, all right? Leave it all on the field. Other sports analogies I can't think of right now. Get geared up for it now. Looks like your camera's unplugged. Awesome. See what they do, man? This is how they get you. This is how they get you. All right. Hold on a second. Let's try this again. All right, had to switch cameras, but we're gonna get through this. Okay, not quite as high quality, but better than the camera shutting off in the middle of this shit. Welcome everybody to Moment of Clarity as we have extreme technical difficulties. Well, there you get more Bill Hicks in the photo, so that's nice. You get a little more George Carlin up there up top. Welcome everybody. So as I was saying before, the NSA and CIA cut off my camera. We got to start early. We got to get on them. We got to attack them early. We got to. If they're gonna spout the bullshit, then we need to call them on it. I get why people are happy to be done with Donald Trump. I understand that. Donald Trump was a fucking horrific megalomaniacal maniac in all senses. And so I understand the anger, the frustration. I get that you want to move to a new time, but that doesn't change the fact that we've exchanged one war-mongering sexual predator owned by corporate America for another. And if Joe Biden wants to behave differently, if he wants to behave in a way that shows he is not that, then fucking bring it. Let's see it. But anyway, I'm going to play clips of Joe Biden's speech. Most of it was kind of, the airy-fairy garbage that you can't even really tear apart because it doesn't really, there's no there, kind of like Joe Biden's brain cavity. But a lot of it's very, very vague stuff, but there are some moments that were especially perfect for picking apart and explaining what it is that's so horrific about what Joe Biden stands for and what he will likely do. I recently did, I just turned it into a column. If you want to read it, it's at consortiumnews.com, a column about what Joe Biden could do with executive actions if he wanted to. He could give everybody health care. He could get rid of student debt. He could protect all immigrants. He could get rid of poverty. He could do all of that without even going through Congress. He won't, but he could. And you should know that. You should know that's in his power. So if you want to read more about that, go over to Consortium News. But please take a moment to share this video. Let people know to join us here. So I'm going to play some clips of Joe Biden's speech, but I need to start off by saying, and I'm sure I'm not the first to do this, but Joe Biden has at some point during this past year jumped the line between not being Jeff Dunham's old man puppet to being Jeff Dunham's old man puppet. And if you want to see what I'm talking about, here is an image of the comedian Jeff Dunham's old man puppet. Can anyone argue that's not Joe Biden? I think we are definitely, I think we're fully there, right? I think that can't really be argued. Jeff Dunham, terrible, very hacky comedian, but he has done a great job of having, not just a hacky comedian, Jeff Dunham's also a racist comedian, but he does a great job of having a bizarre Joe Biden puppet that he didn't know would become a Joe Biden puppet, but it did. Okay, so now let's get to the clips. Let's see here. I'm sure many of you are celebrating the exit of Trump, which I get that it's just now, as long as Joe Biden's speaking, it is time to analyze Joe Biden's speeches. So let's see. All right. Here we go. And this is I'm going to jump around a bunch. Most of it was just kind of boring garbage, but I'm going to try and play for you the moments that had a little more substance. Let's see. Where's the first one? Oh, and if there's if commercials play, I apologize.
Has been heated. We've learned again that
I switched from State Farm because of this site. They had me paying $163 a month.
Democracy is precious. Democracy is fragile. And at this hour, my friends, democracy has prevailed.
Woo! Democracy has prevailed. The guy who, obviously with his help, rigged the primary in order to defeat Bernie Sanders is touting the amazing moment in American history where democracy has prevailed. It has shown that that we can do it. We can get to a place where we actually see what the vote says. But in order to get there, you got to rig the primaries. You got to stop the actual candidate that had legitimate support from running against you. And, we don't need to go through every way that they did that, but you guys probably know, closing polling places in Hispanic areas, pushing provisional ballots on people in California, media giving Bernie Sanders just about zero coverage, all the people dropping out, including Amy Klobuchar, who played a part in this inauguration. That was probably what they gave her. They said, you drop out. We'll make sure you're a big player on the team, Amy. So Amy Klobuchar dropped out, Beto, what were the other clowns? Pete Buttigieg. They all dropped out within a week of each other. Kamala Harris, of course, and endorsed Joe Biden in order to defeat Bernie Sanders. And they probably made sure, or at least allowed Elizabeth Warren to stay in because they figured she siphoned votes away from Bernie Sanders. So they were cool with that. And anyway, those are just some of the ways that they rigged this latest primary, to defeat Bernie Sanders, to allow Joe Biden, who this was his third attempt at running for president. He'd won 0 primaries until all those people dropped out. And basically, he was shown as the only option remaining that was not Bernie Sanders. Then, of course, dumping all kinds of money and everything else into it. The entire Democratic machine, rigging this thing. That's what it took in order to push this guy into the presidency, to defeat Bernie Sanders. That's what it took. And he is touting how amazing democracy is, how excellent it is, how important a value it is to worship our democracy after rigging our democracy to make sure he got in there. Of course, I didn't even get into the Shadow app, right? The app that was forced on the Iowa caucuses in order to cause chaos that day. And again, the way the machine works, it's not like Joe Biden had to oversee this stuff. I doubt Joe Biden was even told about the Shadow app, okay? The Shadow app was former Hillary operatives combined with Buttigieg operatives creating this thing and pushing it on people. Joe Biden was off in the fucking, bumping into a wall, talking to a lampshade, thinking it was a person. He wasn't involved in it, but it doesn't matter. It was still rigged for him to win, to defeat Bernie Sanders, because that was more important to them than even beating Trump. Like, if Biden had lost to Trump, the ruling elites of the Democratic Party wouldn't have liked it, but they would have considered it a win in that they defeated, any kind of actual leftism, any kind of actual progressivism, that would have still been viewed as a win to them. So here he is talking about how great our democracy is. All right, let's go to the next clip. Sorry if we get another commercial.
So now, on this hallowed ground where just a few days ago, violence sought to shake the Capitol's very foundation, we come together as one nation, under God, indivisible, to carry out the peaceful transfer of power as we have for more than 2 centuries.
Yes, the peaceful transfer of power that has lined D.C. with military vehicles. I'm here in D.C. They're fucking everywhere, troops everywhere. This is the peaceful transfer of power. And the other thing is this whole idea of the peaceful transfer of power is the reason it exists, and the reason it's largely been successful is because America is run and owned by the business interests, by the business elites, right? That large Princeton study that I like to mention that found that studying all of the possible policy issues, the American people have zero say on the input of what actually happens, and it comes down to what corporate America wants, meaning we are an oligarchy. We are a rule by an elite class. And so that is why this transfer of power is usually, almost always, peaceful. And that's why, actually, with the exception of Donald Trump, you see the whole gang hanging out there, right? They were all sitting behind Joe Biden. You had Bush and Obama and Clinton and Hillary and all these people hanging out there, hugging each other, right? Michelle and Bush are good buddies. They're good buddies, right? They love those photos of her hugging George W. Bush and all that shit. It's because this is the elite corporate class. They either came from corporate America or they're owned by corporate America. Sometimes both. But that is why the transfer of power is peaceful. It's because they know that most of what they want is going to happen. They don't have to fear the next person coming into office. Donald Trump was a bit different because he was a different segment of corporate elite. Kind of the unsavory side of the corporate elite. He wasn't of the in class of that business elite that runs Washington, and that is why he caused them so much trouble. Not because he was actually doing things for people, not because he was actually against capitalism in any way, but because he didn't fit into the club. And then he, of course, did a bunch of other things that made them upset, such as many things, gutting agencies and stuff like that. But the agencies that he was gutting are largely run by corporate America as well. So there was the difference between, the EPA not running at all and the EPA running for corporate America. It was a slight difference, but so that's not really what they were upset about. What they were upset about is, trashing alliances and things like that. They were afraid that he would, he wasn't a good CEO for America Inc. He made us look bad. And so that's really what upset them. But all right, let's move on here to another clip.
This is a great nation. We are good people. And over the centuries, through storm and strife, in peace and in war, we've come so far.
I just wanted to play that one because I love the we're good people part. We're good people. It's one of those things, if you just say it in the mirror enough, it'll come true. It's like, no, Joe Biden, the American people may be good, largely, especially if you talk to people individually and not in groups where they're acting like idiot sheep. But the American elite that he's a part of are not good. They're their job, their mission in life is to amass as much wealth as possible, extract as much goods and lives, our energy, our time, extract our money, our resources. Our lives are actually just resources like oil to be churned up and power the engine of America. And they are the overseers to make sure that it goes smoothly and to enrich themselves. So your average American might be a good person, but these elite that he's a part of, not good people. But they say it to themselves in the mirror. They go, I'm good people. Every morning they go, I'm good. I'm doing good. I'm doing public service. That's what they say to themselves. As they force through tax cuts for billionaires, I'm doing public service. As they send missiles over to blow up schools in Afghanistan, I'm doing a public service. I'm a servant of the public. That's what they tell themselves as they do those things. All right, let's keep going here. Let's see.
Millions of jobs have been lost. Hundreds of thousands of businesses closed. A cry for racial justice, some 400 years in the making, moves us.
Yes, a cry for racial justice that is against the shit he did. It was a cry for racial justice against fucking Joe Biden. All right, this is the guy, and I know you guys know this, but this is the fucking guy that crafted the crime bill, that forced it through, that destroyed millions, literally millions of lives. People locked away for years for nonviolent nothing crimes, while the real crimes, the large crimes, the destroying whole swaths of this country with pollution and oil spills and you know, polluting our water supplies and destroying people's lives, those kind of crimes, those go unpunished. Those are not punishable. Maybe the corporation gets a fine, maybe. But really, those are not a problem. Those are not what he was concerned about when he crafted the crime bill. He was concerned with a black guy standing on the corner smoking a joint. If that. Half the time these people are arrested, they didn't do anything wrong. They were standing there and a cop walked up and started harassing them. And then they said, fuck you. And then the cop, you know, tackles them and puts them in for a resisting arrest or some shit. Some of these, not some, the large percentage of these extensive prison sentences are thanks to Joe Biden. So when he talks about a cry for racial justice, that a good portion of that is due to fucking him. And here he is telling you that you know, how great it is he's been elected, because now we're gonna really answer to that cry for racial justice.
The dream of justice for all will be deferred no longer. A cry for survival comes from the planet itself. A cry that can't be any more desperate or any more clear. And now, a rise of political extremism.
I love how he slips in there a cry from the planet itself. And that is, he has one other mention. It's a 20-minute speech or something. He has one other mention of climate change. But this is thrown in there like it's like something he has to say. Democrats have now realized they have to say something about the planet. But even in this speech, not only do they do fuck all when it comes to bills, you know, when it comes to Congress, when it comes to what they're actually doing, when it comes to what Obama did, they do fuck all for the planet. They are in bed with oil companies. They are basically oil company employees. They are in bed with other companies that destroy our environment. The number one cause of global warming emissions, factory farming, they're in bed with them. Of course, Joe Biden would never, I don't think he'd even say the words factory farming. He could never criticize them. And so they do nothing about the environment, but they've learned they need to throw in a little fact, a little sentence, right? Half a sentence in a 20-minute speech. The environment is crying for help. And they slip that in there so that they can say they had it, so that no one can say, hey, you didn't say anything about the environment. Oh, I did. Did you see that sentence? Cry for help from the environment. It means nothing. It means fucking nothing. I don't even think in like his stuff he says he's gonna do, there's not even hardly anything for the environment. He said, so he's going to rejoin the Paris Climate Accords that we know are meaningless. Like, look at the other countries that are still in it. How much have their emissions changed? How much have they saved the planet? Roughly zero. The Paris Climate Accords is garbage. It means nothing. It's just something that they wave it around to say, look, we're doing something about the environment. It's just, that's all it is. My favorite analogy is it's the Christmas wreath on the pedophile's home. Okay, it's just there to make you think everything's cool. You think he's a good guy. So he's going to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord, and he said in his debates that he's going to put in 500,000 charging stations for electric cars. Okay, that's not going to solve the fucking the level of change that we need to be involved in to save our environment, to save our planet, to stop the insect genocide that's going on right now. And I know it's funny to care about something like an insect genocide, but guess what? They die, we die. Yeah, that's how that works. So the amount that has to be done to stop this is immense, and he's talking about putting in a few more charging stations. It's utter horseshit. Not to mention, or I used to have a stand-up joke about this, but have you ever noticed not to mention means to mention? It always bugs me a little, but you can't just say to mention. That's not, we don't have that expression. So not to mention this thing I'm going to say. So I need to switch it to I'm going to mention. But see, that seems aggressive, you know? Like right now, we were talking about the environment. Right now, if I go, I'm going to mention how terrible the military is for the environment. People are just like, okay, then just do it. You don't have to make a fucking thing about it. Just Jesus. Good God, man. Put a little decaf in the machine. It doesn't need to be all highly caffeinated. Okay, so he's saying the environment is putting out a cry for survival, a cry for help, right? The number one organization, I said that the number one cause of climate emissions is factory farming. The number one, or animal, and not factory farming, but animal agriculture as a whole, including factory farming. The number one organization, like single entity for causing climate change, causing emissions, is the U.S. military. Not only do simply by their movements around the globe, is it just immense, carbon footprint. But on top of that, when you blow up societies, that's terrible for the environment. When you collapse societies, destroy societies, blow up buildings that have to be rebuilt, all of that is fucking horrifying. It is inefficient and it is terrible. And Joe Biden is going to mention how we need to care about the environment. But of course, he's not going to mention how, you do that. You fucking don't have 800, 900 military bases around the world. You fucking don't give $1 trillion to military every year. You don't send your military to whatever it is, 2/3 of the nations around the world. But he would never say that. He would never combine those two. They have to promote the military at every turn. All right, let's get to another one. I'm going a little slow here. There's too much to be said about all this garbage. All right, but let's skip ahead. And yes, I heard everybody said get an ad blocker. I'll work on it.
The battle is perennial, and victory is never assured.
I switched from State Farm.
See, but you wouldn't get to see her.
They had me paying
this weirdo girl
a month for my
Aren't you excited you got that?
The Civil War, the Great Depression, World War.
Hold on, let's hear this again.
The battle is perennial, and victory is never assured. Through Civil War, the Great Depression, World War, 9/11, through struggles, sacrifice, and setbacks, our better angels have always prevailed.
That sounds wonderful, right? That sounds like a sweet little thing to say. It's complete horseshit. Our better angels didn't prevail. Like, look at some of the things he listed. The Civil War, we just killed as many of each other as we could with either cannons or disease until one side says, we're fucking done. We don't have any people left. You killed them all. Like, that's not better angels prevailing. That's just one side beat the shit out of the other, and eventually they gave up. That's what were the better angels exactly involved in that? Not to mention the side that Laws was fighting to own human beings. So that one side won. That's not better angels prevailing. Better angels prevailing is when you decide to do the right thing, not you just enough people die that you give up. So he said Civil War, Great Depression. In the Great Depression, our better angels prevailed. The Great Depression came about because of the immense inequality and fucking extraction that had gone on by the ruling elite, which is happening again, which is why we call this the second Gilded Age. That was the first Gilded Age right before the Great Depression. And so, like, FDR, luckily, had something in his brain combined with immense pressure from labor unions, from activists, from people across America to put in the New Deal. And if it weren't for that pressure from unions that were far more powerful back then, he never would have, like, that wouldn't have happened. The business, corporate America, or business America, as it was probably called then, would not have allowed that to happen. And in fact, they tried to depose FDR in a coup. But that wouldn't have happened without a stronger labor union. It wasn't like a better angel. Better angels were forced to do something or whatever. The fucking devils were forced to do something by the power of the people in a fucking destitute situation. Furthermore, if you have to go through something like the Great Depression to give workers some rights, to give, to give people some jobs and let them have a okay living, let them survive, you have to watch everything crash and collapse. That's not a good way to get there. Like, to me, the expression better angels prevailed is when, like, you're deciding between doing two things and you decide to be the good person. Not you're forced to by the fact that capitalism was about to collapse and they knew the only way to save it was to put in the New Deal. And then the next one he says is 9/11. How did our better angels prevail in 9/11? The war on terror continues, having killed millions of people. We've destroyed Afghanistan, destroyed Iraq, put in a mass surveillance state. And this is the better angels are prevailing? The fuck? Those are not better angels. Those are shitty angels. Those are some terrible angels. I don't even... It's hearing about angels like those that reminds me why I'm not religious. Because those are some shit angels, man. He should have... The end of that statement should have been, our shit angels prevailed. All right. Let's skip ahead a little here. I don't know how many more of these I have time for, or how many more of these I can endure. But I know you want to see the State Farm girl again, so I'll keep going.
And so today, at this time, in this place, let's start afresh. All of us. Let's begin to listen to one another again. Hear one another. See one another.
By the way, it's hilarious he's saying this because he has already stopped listening to the left. I mean, he never listened to the left. For his entire career, he's never listened to the left. But he's already started, like, borderline screaming at the left to shut the fuck up. That leaked conference call, Zoom call that he was on with leaders of the black community. And he basically told them, shut up. I'm not doing these things you're asking for. I'm not going to do these executive actions that I could do. I'm not going to even hear people who say things like defund the police. I mean, so he's saying in his speech, we need to listen to each other. And in reality, he has already, on day one, stopped listening to the left. And that was the whole point of his presidency. I mean, of his candidacy, which I went through earlier, was to crush the left and stop the left. So he gives this impassioned speech. We need to listen to one another. What happened to listening to one another? And he and the Democratic Party have never listened to the left and they've spent the past year, if not the past 2 or 3 years, trying to make sure they crush the left, right? Along with crushing Bernie Sanders, they've used red baiting McCarthyism, right, to go after the left. They've used all the social media platforms to crush the left, to ban people. By the way, I just found out today, the co-founder of Free Thought Project, he posted an image of the Free Julian Assange posters that I created with the help of Lucy Dyer. And these posters say, Free Julian Assange, jail the war criminals. You probably saw it behind me in some of the videos. And anyway, today he reposted that image. And Facebook told him that he was banned for 3 days. So that's how they've stopped the left. And that's how they've stopped listening to the left with shit like that. So when he says listen to each other, he means, no, listen, we're going to listen to the business interests. We're going to listen to corporate America. All right. Let's see here. This next one's a good one.
Show respect to one another. Politics doesn't have to be a raging fire, destroying everything in its path.
Who's behind America's student
loan crisis? A new ad. Wow, this is
lender, Navient.
Shitload of ads. Sorry.
Every disagreement doesn't have to be a cause for total war. And we must reject the culture in which facts themselves are manipulated and even manufactured.
Now that's truly hilarious, right? Because he and his fellow liberals have spent the past 4 years manufacturing the idea of Russiagate, right? The idea that Trump colluded with Russia, that Russia hacked the DNC, not to mention what everything else they blame Russia for. Most of it is, I say most of it to be nice. Really, all of it is horseshit. The Russian bounties story, but the collusion was obviously the biggest one because they were trying to get that to lead into impeachment and it led nowhere. They never found any collusion. If you look at the indictments, many of which they dropped quietly on a Friday when no one was paying attention because they knew they couldn't actually prosecute this clickbait farm in St. Petersburg, Russia for doing anything. And so they dropped those. But if you look at the actual indictments that, you know, against Manafort and Michael Flynn and stuff, none of it has to do with colluding with Russia to rig the election. It's indictments for other things because those guys are con artists, but they just weren't colluding with Russia. So literally the past many years have been spent on a giant horseshit lie. Now Trump's been doing his own lies, agreed, but this is what Joe Biden and the liberal media, meaning the CNNs and MSNBCs as opposed to the Fox Newses, have been fucking pushing for 4 years. Is this horseshit, utter garbage, and we now know that most of it's come out. And the same with the Syrian chemical weapons, right? If you read what the work that Gray Zone's done on exposing that lie, just so many levels of just lie after lie after lie. And of course, you know, that doesn't even get into the stuff that's simply lying by omission, such as never talking about capitalism, never talking about the victims of capitalism, never talking about the millions that capitalism has killed around the world. The fact that we could easily give everybody clean water in the world. The number one cause of death is dirty water around this world. And yet we use capitalism to justify allowing millions to die every year. So that's lying by omission. But I'm talking about straight up lies. And we've just seen this endlessly. And so here is Joe Biden telling you, listen, we got to get to a time where we go back to truth. Truth, right? Not to mention, this is a guy who has been caught in numerous lies. Lying about his record, lying about getting arrested for protesting civil rights, lying about how, he's done more for the black community than anyone. Yeah, he's done more to harm the black community than anyone. Lying about his first presidential run back in the 80s, he had to drop out for plagiarism, which I think we could call a type of lying. He said when he was pressed in campaign stops because climate activists were in front of him, he finally addressed them and he said, "No one's done more for the climate than me." Yeah, no one's done more to cause climate change than you, maybe. You might have a point there. Just endless lies from this guy, which is how you become president, you generally. Endless lies. And this is a guy saying, we've got to get back to truth. And by the way, this is not just Joe Biden, right? This shit is eaten up by our mainstream media, eaten up by CNN, MSNBC. After he gave this speech, they said, yes, see, it was perfect what he said. We need to get back to truth. Thank you, Joe Biden. Like, they just ate this shit up while they're part of this fucking ridiculous lie. And I know earlier I said I was talking about the liberal media, but a lot of that includes Fox News and the right-wing media. They tell all those most of those foreign policy lies as well, right? Iran is the largest state sponsor of terror. It's like, no, they're fucking not. We are. We sponsor more Al-Qaeda affiliates than they do. And we, of course, create terror by dropping a bomb every 12 minutes. So we're the largest state sponsor of terror. All right, I'm going to jump to, I know I'm getting a little long here, so I'm going to jump to the end because I just found this funny. He runs out of, this is classic, this is a classic a trick you do when you don't have anything to say and you need to fill time in a speech. By the way, he used to be known for giving just epic speeches on the floor of the Senate. He'd be slotted for 15 minutes and he'd go on for 2 hours or shit like that. Just could not get enough of himself talking. Nowadays, he doesn't do that because he's not mentally with it enough to like speak off the cuff that long. So he needs stuff. He's better when words are written for him. He needs reminders of, where he is, who he is, those kind of things. So now he speaks much shorter than he used to because he can't speak really off the cuff without sounding a bit deranged. I mean, I don't know if you saw some of these interviews he did with on smaller shows that he did when he was running, like podcasts and things like that. But you get him talking for a couple of minutes, and it's fucking madness. I mean, he really does sound like your crazy grandpa from like the 1930s. Literally, one of the podcasts, he goes, Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump's like, he's like, when you go to the carnival and there's that guy with the peas and he's got the peas under the cups and you go and you fall for it because you don't know which cup the peas under. But next time the cup, the pea in the cup, because it's a trick. It's a trick with the cup and the peas. And you're like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? Did he just say the carnival? I don't know. Has there been a legit carnival in town? I don't know if anybody's called it a carnival in a while. But yeah, he's going back to a time. I mean, in his head, he's living in like the 1930s. And anyway, point is, you can't let him speak. So they have words written for him. So he's trying to fill up this time, this 20 minutes for this inauguration speech. And he does what I used to do when you had to give a speech in middle school and you were like, fuck, I got to talk for 10 minutes. And you get to 7 minutes. And then you just start reading a song you liked because you knew you just needed to fill the time and you didn't have anything else to say. So he did that. He just started reading a song, like the lyrics to a song he likes. Let's see. Here it is. If they show another commercial, I swear to God.
We'll write the next great chapter in the history of the United States of America.
Oh my God, motherfucking, I'll kill everyone, you goddamn shit.
Friends
fuck.
would walk.
Okay. The American story. A story that might sound something like a song that means a lot to me. It's called American anthem. There's one verse that stands out, at least for me, and it goes like this. The work and prayers of century have brought us to this day. What shall be our legacy? What will our children say? Let me know in my heart when my days are through. America, America, I gave my best to you.
Was that moving? Was everybody moved? By the way, when he says that song means a lot to him. No, it doesn't. He doesn't. He didn't know that song existed until the speechwriters put it in. And then he said, what am I reading here? And they said, yeah, just read it. It'll fill time. Just read these lyrics. And then, you know, what are one of the lyrics? When my time is up, when my time is through, let me know when my time is through. Yeah, Biden, your time is through. Okay. This is getting painful. Anyway, I won't, I guess I shouldn't, you know, the rest is more of the same. He talks a lot about truth and values and, unity. We're all going to be unified. And that's a standard tactic for the ruling elite who want to continue the smooth kind of churning of capitalism, of consumerism, to you know, that they can continue to exploit us, abuse us, suck out all of our resources, time, money, lives. They say, come together and let us do that. That's what, so when he says unity, that's really what they mean, is everybody just get together and let's go back to when we were seamlessly exploiting you. When you weren't so upset about things, right? Like, you could have police brutality and there wouldn't be marches afterwards. We need more unity. So really, that's what they mean when they say unity. They don't mean let's actually get together and solve the problems of this country. They mean let's get together and continue the exploitation that they are benefiting from. Now, the truth is, the rest of us, the non-ruling elite, do need to get together and fight and create a better future, create a sustainable future. It's not going to be done by guys like Joe Biden and women like Kamala Harris. They're not going to do it. So we need to come together. We do need to unify and fight to create a better world, a sustainable world, an equitable world, and not rely on these clowns, these multi-millionaire corporate-owned, you know, fucking ass clowns that, I mean, Biden's whole career, he's been funded by credit card companies, which are just a form of exploitation. He's been funded by big banks. He lives in it is from the largest tax haven state in the union, where corporations go to make sure they don't pay taxes into the American system that made them rich. And that's who he is, not to mention the other stuff, you know, longtime racist, sexual predator. So I get if you're happy that Trump is gone, but just don't waste a minute in not, you know, avoiding criticizing Biden because he just got into office. We need to acknowledge what this is immediately and go after it immediately and call out the truth immediately. The real truth, not the truth Biden wants you to listen to, not the truth MSNBC wants you to listen to, the actual reality of it. All right. There's so much more I could say, but this is getting a bit long. So I hope you enjoyed this. That's your moment of clarity. I watched that so you wouldn't have to, the whole thing. And which you're lucky if you didn't. And please, I do these every single weekday, except sometimes. And they're at leecamp.com. So even if you don't get an alert saying I'm going to do it, please come over to leecamp.com. Check out the day's video. Please subscribe. If you're over at Facebook, come over to youtube.com/Moment of Clarity and subscribe there. And check out my two podcasts, Common Censored and Government Secrets. Obviously, if you don't know, I have a TV show called Redacted Tonight. That is every Friday, but it's also up on my website, leecamp.com. And there will not be one this Friday, unfortunately, because someone on the crew got COVID. So now we can't tape, but we'll be back next week. And thanks, everybody. I'll see you probably tomorrow. Keep fighting.